Welcome to the closing panel of Compact 22. What an exceptional few days it has been. Thank you again for participating, leaning in, sharing, asking such thoughtful questions, and connecting with one another. It is now my pleasure to get us started for our final plenary, Standing Up for Democracy, a conversation with Harry Dunn. We will have time for Q&A at the end of this session, so please make sure you direct your questions to the chat. Before I turn it over to John, who's going to introduce Harry, let me tell you a bit about President Alger. John Alger is the 6th president of James Madison University. Under his leadership, this public comprehensive university in Virginia, with approximately 22,000 students, developed a bold new vision to be the national model of the engaged university, engaged with ideas and the world, and a strategic plan focused on engaged learning, community engagement, and civic engagement. John is a committed leader and advocate for the civic and community engagement mission, and we are so lucky to have him as our current board chair. John, thank you for all you have given and continue to give our field, and particularly to the Campus Compact community. And with that, I give you John and Harry.
Thanks so much, Bobby. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's my great honor to host this conversation with Capitol Hill police officer Harry Dunn, who was one of the heroes on January 6, 2021, who defended our nation's capital during the deadly insurrection that day, with which you're all certainly familiar. Harry, by the way, is a 2005 graduate of James Madison University, and was also, by the way, a starting offensive lineman on our 2004 national championship team. So at 6'7" tall, I have to say that Harry does know a thing or two about protecting people and has done a very good job at that for a long time. One quick note before we jump into the conversation. After the conclusion of our conversation, please note that I will be providing some brief closing remarks for the conference so you can stay in the same place for the conference wrap-up. So let's jump right into it. Harry, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. This is a great opportunity and a great honor to be here talking with you and the Compact crew. So thank you for having me here.
So Harry, maybe we can get started by having you tell us a bit about your own student experience in college and how it prepared you for your life and career.
Well, I'm gonna brag on JMU for a little bit because it was, I don't know, it's the only college experience that I had, but it was the probably the best time of my life. It prepared me for where I am in this life, in this moment that I've kind of been thrusted in, for lack of a better term. Being able to have the confidence to go out here and speak up and do what's right. Stand up for what I believe in, standing up for the morals that have been instilled in me over my life. I learned a lot of that at JMU. There's some, along with my upbringing, my parents raised me well. And I owe a lot of that also to, I guess, being a student athlete at JMU. You're kind of forced to grow up when you play sports in college. And the coaching staff and the student, the athletic department, they molded me into being able to carry a lot, to bear a heavy load. And I'm grateful for that. Some of the relationships I made in college close to 20 years ago, I still maintain to this day are some of my strongest friendships. So I'm very grateful for JMU and the college experience and being able to be a student athlete, because I definitely believe that helped shape and mold me into the man, the person that I am, the citizen that I am today. So,
right. And who knew back then what you would be facing all these years later? But certainly great preparation. And it's interesting how a sport like football and being the team effort that it is prepared you in ways that you might never have anticipated for your career. So can you talk a little bit about when and why you decided to become a Capitol Police officer? It's not the normal job we think of with police. It's obviously a very special role. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, the DMV, known as. So I grew up seeing the Capitol, and I always admired it just looking at it. First of all, it was just an amazing, just a feat to see if you've ever seen it. It's the nation's capital, so it's you take for granted because you see it every day, but you realize the importance of it and the historical significance of it, and the significance that it holds throughout the world. Even today, you see the Capitol, and I see it, and a lot of people view it as a symbol of democracy. So it's very powerful. It's very meaningful. So just having that opportunity to work there it's even now, 14 years in, it's like I still get overwhelmed by just seeing it. So I'm really humbled and honored to being able to serve our country in this capacity. And also, Capitol Police pays very well. It's a very nice salary, starting salary for anybody looking to go into law enforcement. And you're also serving your country too. So it's a lot of benefits for joining Capitol Police, and I'm experiencing them as I continue my career. So.
Well, and we are grateful that you've chosen that career. So let's jump into the topic that I know everybody is anxious to hear about in terms of your own experience. And in some ways, I hate to take you back to that day, but I know you've talked a lot about it and been very public about your experience. So when you reflect on the events of January 6th, can you say a little bit about what you experienced that day and how it made you feel about our democracy? We've certainly heard a broad array of description of people involved in the insurrection and what their motives may or may not have been. But, what's your take based on your actual interactions that day? What did you see and experience?
Gotcha. So to backtrack real quick, it's not necessarily a negative thing when you say, take me back there to that day. One thing that's helped me overcome, because it was a very traumatic experience, not just for me, but I believe for a lot of people, any American citizen watching it, our democracy was under attack, whether they were there physically getting attacked or just watching it being stripped from them and them sitting watching their TVs feeling helpless. I think it was a traumatic event for everybody involved in it. However, talking about it, I refuse to not have power over it. I'm not going to relinquish the control over my feelings. So I'm going to control how I feel. I'm going to control talking about it. And so talking about it has been therapeutic for me and helped me in the healing process, because it affected me in a very, very, very negative way. And I suffered from depression and anxiety. And we'll get to that a little later, but I don't mind talking about it because it's healing and it's therapeutic for me. But going back to that day, as far as what happened, as that day was unfolding, we didn't know the gravity of what was happening. Obviously, a year plus removed, we're starting to understand the full scope of what was at stake that day, which kind of makes it even more interesting, because that day we didn't know what was at stake. We were just doing our jobs, and we were standing up and defending democracy. But we didn't know to what extent, as we're continuing to learn now, the actual game plan and the attempts that were looking to be made. We didn't realize at that time, at that moment, what was going on. There were people there who told us, that what they were doing, but we didn't know exactly how deep it went. And every day it's like a new revelation. You're learning more information. You're learning this, you're learning that. And I think that's what's important. People need to stay focused and pay attention to what happened and what could have potentially happened, because the fact that they had that plan, you realize that, this could have been bad. We could be living in a whole different country right now, or state of affairs in this country right now. if things went the way that they're explaining that they intended to go that day. So that day, like I said, it was very dark as we're continuing to learn about what happened. But while it was happening, we were just doing our jobs. We weren't saving the country, I guess. We were, dispersing a mob and dealing with rioters. And so.
So on that front, Harry, did you have much forewarning about what was coming? I mean, we heard a little bit that there was going to be some sort of rally that day, although I don't know that any of us anticipated what was going to follow that. But was there much preparation going into that, or did you just think this is, another day on the job, so to speak? What was it like going in? And then how did you know when things were getting sort of out of control?
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think it's safe to say in my career, I've dealt with over 1,000 protests at the Capitol. Protesting is a First Amendment, a right given of the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to petition your members, the members of Congress there. Those freedoms are guaranteed by the Constitution. And no matter what the message is, people are afforded those rights. So I don't care what the message is that people are protesting, they have the right to do it. And my job is to allow them to be able to do it in a safe environment. It's not my job to agree or disagree with their cause, with their purpose. It's my job to ensure that their rights are available to them. So with that said, we thought it was going to be another protest day. Some of the protests they call what we call civil disobedience, and they have the intention of getting arrested. And usually that's known to us in advance. Because when it says civil, it's civil. So they plan to have civil disobedience.
Right.
So we have some kind of knowledge about it. However, with this one, we didn't really know exactly what their intentions were. We definitely didn't know that their intentions were to overthrow the government.
Right.
But we had some officers there. I just prepared for a long day. I normally work 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. an 8-hour shift normally, but this day I was like, all right, today's probably gonna be a 16-hour day. I'll get off at 11, and I just thought it was just going to be a long day, potentially just dealing with people that may have got out of hand, got rowdy, but never in my wildest dreams did I anticipate what happened. So I know you asked about what I got to work about 6:45, 6:30, 6:45 that morning. And as I was coming into the city, it just had this weird feel about it. Because it was in the middle of the pandemic. DC was locked down. It's traffic everywhere on a normal day in Washington, DC. But during the pandemic and during, the lockdown, the streets were fairly empty. It wasn't a lot of people. However, this particular day driving in, there were people everywhere. Even at 6 a.m, walking around the city with flags waving, and it just, looking back, it was like, wow, that was some major foreshadowing about what was ahead of us that day. But it just had an eerie feeling. But I like even then, I never thought that it would arise to the level that it arose to earlier that day. So what got to work there, it seemed, it reminded me of like a giant pep rally. There were people out there, they were singing the Star Spangled Banner. They were doing the Pledge of Allegiance. They had American songs playing. It was just a big pep rally for America. And that's what it seemed like initially. But it started early in the day. And the crowds just kept growing and growing throughout the whole day. It just more and more people just kept growing and growing. And eventually, like, man, this is a lot of people here. This is, I'm not paying attention to, I wasn't paying attention to the speech that the president was giving at the time. I wasn't paying attention to it. I'm just, focused on the crowd and making sure that they're in a safe environment to do what they were doing, which was legal. There was, was within their rights to do so. When I got a sense that things were making a turn for the worse is when they announced that we had found pipe bombs at 2 different locations And that kind of gave, like, this is bad because it was a diversion. This is my opinion. It was a diversion that's what they were drawing us away from the Capitol. So more people, we would have less officers there to stop them from getting in. And that's my opinion. That hasn't been confirmed by anything. That's just my opinion about what happened. But that's what was going through my head. And as officers had to leave the Capitol area to go, secure the area that the pipe bombs were in. That's when they started to breach the police lines and start to attack us.
Interesting. So is it at that point that you realize, oh, this is not just a routine protest, that something else is going on here?
Well, yeah, correct. But even then, maybe I still had a little bit of hope that they weren't connected. Maybe these people just they were fired up. When I talk to my friends about sports, I get fired up, and you think like, yo, calm down. Like, wait, we're just talking about basketball. We're not going to hurt each other. So they were very passionate about the president at the time. They were very passionate about it. But even then, I had a little bit of hope that they were just fired up, and they weren't going to attack us in the way that they did. But that soon became a false hope, and they attacked us.
So I gather, Harry, your perspective on this. We've heard many different descriptions of the protesters. I mean, there was one member of Congress, as I recall, who said something about they were like ordinary tourists. And I gather, just to set the record straight, at least from your perspective, this was not like tourists coming to visit the Capitol.
Not at all. A lot of people have made a large deal about what that member of Congress stated. And one thing, going through therapy and just talking it out, is I have learned people are set in their ways and set in their beliefs, and you're not going to convince them otherwise. If somebody looked at what happened that day and they described it as a normal tour, then I really I'm not even going to acknowledge that with a response. Like, everybody saw what happened. And if that is your takeaway, if that's what you saw, then we really have no business discussing anything any further. Me and that individual. So I have learned I am not going to engage with somebody who will flat out just. So yeah, I'm not going to. No, it wasn't a tour. We saw what we went through. We see. I've seen tours. Tours have started back at the Capitol, and people are in awe, and they take pictures, and that wasn't what was going on.
So Harry, you've continued to show up at work at the Capitol after this incredibly traumatic event, where literally your and other lives were in danger. So what's it like for you to protect people, to continue to protect people, when some have downplayed the seriousness of the events? And even now, it seems to be subject to political maneuvering about what we all saw with our own eyes. How does that make you feel as you continue to do this work?
It's really unfortunate that something like this has been used to score political points. It's unfortunate, but I'm not surprised about it, because the cause of it was political. It was a politically motivated event. So when people say that they're disappointed about it became political, no, it originated because of politics. That's why January 6th happened. It was a political push to stay in power, or to rewrite the rules, or whatever. It was a politically motivated event. So I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed that it had become so polarized, because you would think that something like this would unify us. But both sides are guilty of politicizing it even further than what it needs to be. We can all call it what it was, and we saw it with our own eyes without trying to score political points. And I guess that's where I feel a little disappointed. But as far as, me doing my job and continuing to show up, and that's one thing that I guess, I'll go back to JMU for a second, and being a student athlete on the football team. I played offensive line. Linemen, we didn't get any credit for anything. We didn't score any touchdowns. The running backs and the quarterbacks, they appreciated us, but nobody knew who the linemen were. Nobody knew our names, so nobody cared about us. So that kind of helped me learn to the get the mindset of it's bigger than me. You know, this is not just about me. I'm one individual doing my part for my country. I'm serving my country. And one of the ways that I help, let me back up for a second. When something major happens in your life or something that gets you down and you like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it makes you doubt why you're doing something. You think of it for a second. You have to find something that continues to motivate you about that. Why did you start doing it to start with? And you need to focus on that and not what's happening currently. Think about why you did what you're doing now and why you joined the Capitol Police. I like service. I like serving my country. And I like the idea of service to my country, service to mankind, and all that stuff. So when you hear members that downplay or lie about what happened, I say, okay, what does that member represent? That member represents sometimes over 1 million people. So that one person having a voice, that's all it is. It's just one person. Because I'm sure there are several people that member represents that do not share the same sentiment as him. So I got to remember, I am protecting a seat and I'm protecting the institution of what democracy is. And that's a member representing the country. One member representing up to sometimes over 1 million people. There are congressmen and women that would hear that their job is to speak for the other people. And I have to defend that principle, whether I agree with it or not, because that is what democracy is. So I look at it as I'm defending a seat, not necessarily a person. That seat will exist after that member doesn't exist anymore. It existed before that member even existed. So you can't get caught up on one individual, one thing, because it's bigger than that one person. It's bigger than my feelings. It's bigger than my emotions. So that's what keeps me going. And also it helps that I got a mortgage to pay.
Well, there is that. But, it's interesting that offensive lineman experience may have been very helpful in the sense that, you were always thinking about something bigger and beyond yourself, right? That it was all about the team's success and you didn't necessarily get the limelight and the credit. And it seems like that was very good preparation for the mindset that you bring to this job. And by the way, that a lot of folks in our audience today that do community and civic engagement work, I'm sure they have days when they're discouraged and they look at what's happening around them and they get depressed. But to see the inspiration, that you keep showing up, right? And that's a big part of democracy is you keep showing up because you're part of something bigger than yourself. So how do you have, Harry, when you talk to people in your own life, your friends, your family, other people you encounter, how do you have difficult conversations with people who may have different, political and social perspectives than you?
So I'll back up real quick again. When you said that people, sometimes they may feel disappointed and they feel, but if you quit, then who's going to do it? Somebody has to do it. Or do you just quit and just succumb to this evil, for lack of a better, let's use evil, this evil or this different opinion thinking? Like, do you just say, all right, I'm done, and then let the oppressor win? No, you got to keep fighting, even if it's hard, because somebody's counting on you. And I believe in myself, and I got to stand up for what I believe in, no matter what. Like, even if I'm the only one standing up for it, I think it's so important for people to stand up for what they believe in. They did what they thought was right, and that's so important. I can get behind that, even if I don't agree with it. You're standing up for what you believe in, and you're doing it in a respectable, responsible way. I give you kudos. You fought to the end, and that's what I intend to do. But as far as having like difficult conversations with people that you first, you have to have an open mind. You have to realize that, people are allowed to think different than you. People are allowed to have different opinions. People politically, like social, it doesn't matter. Like, there are people out there that prefer French toast over pancakes, and I think that's insane. But they're allowed to think that. Like, I prefer pancakes. but I'm not going to call anybody crazy that thinks it's okay to put pineapple on pizza. No, that's your opinion. It's wrong, but that's your opinion. You know? But no, but you have to go into things with an open mind, and you be willing to, one, accept it, talk to people about it, have an open mind, and people's opinion, people's views, morals on things, they come from what? They come from their upbringing, they come from experience, they come from what they've lived in their life. And a lot of people, you don't live the same life as somebody else, so you need to go with an open mind and understand what people have been through. And I think that's one of the best things about being a mature adult. You can have conversations with people that disagree with you, and I think that that's okay. So,
Great. Well, one of the things, Harry, that struck me, I know you were here on our own campus talking to students at JMU, and I know that you mentioned that you like to talk to students and other folks, that these conversations can actually be therapeutic, and these issues of mental health that you touched on earlier, that's a huge issue right now on college campuses and around the country, frankly, and the pandemic has only exacerbated those issues. Can you say a little bit more about that and how it can be therapeutic? Because I think that's an important message for our audience.
I'm really glad that you asked about that, because I have been a huge proponent for mental health, wellness, awareness, and everything like that. And this kind of ties into the other point that I was just saying about you need to have an open mind, and you don't know what somebody else has been through. When somebody commits suicide, I'm not trying to get dark here or anything like that, but if somebody commits suicide, a lot of people, a response, an overwhelming response to that is, man, he didn't have to do that. It's never that bad where you have to take your own life. Is it ever not that bad, or we just never got to that point where we experienced that bad? So I think it's a selfish statement to make, to not understand, because you are minimizing what they were going through. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. It's always good to offer support and encourage people. So I wanted to go back to that part about having tough, difficult conversations and keeping an open mind about what people have gone through, because you don't know what people are going through, and we need to treat people as such. But as far as the mental health and the therapeutic, somebody's asked me, what can we do? What can we do to get mental health more normalized and reduce the stigma of, mental health awareness? There's no new words. There's no new catchphrase, new slogan. There isn't one. You just need to keep saying it. You need to keep pushing back and just saying that this is okay. It is all right. We get our heart checked out. Let's get our brain checked out too. We got to normalize it. And it's done wonders for me. One of the biggest things that people often will think is that if you go to therapy and you talk about your problems, that means you are immune to feeling sad, depressed, and angry. No, it doesn't. You're not immune to that at all. What it does is it helps you learn how to healthily, is that the right word? Healthily, you know what I'm trying to say, deal with problems. It helps you how to deal with them in a healthy way. So that's why it's good. It helps. It's very helpful. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. We so appreciate your willingness to have the conversation with us today. So some of the questions are starting to come in from the audience, Harry, so I'm going to go back and forth. I've got a lot of questions I'd love to ask you, but I want to get some of these audience questions in. So the first one is from Lisbeth Valdez that says, did you at any moment feel like you had to choose between your identity and personal values and your job on January 6th? And if so, was it a difficult decision, and why? And if not, how were you able to separate the two? So between your identity and personal values and your job.
That's a great question. I don't think that I had to choose, because I believe when you become a police officer and you do your job for the right reasons, then it's already instilled in you what you're going to do. It's my identity is why I became a police officer, because I view policing as public service, and that public service that I was doing on January 6th was keeping people safe. by people that were trying to harm me. So no, I don't believe that it was a difficult decision at all. But hang on, I'm going back. I'm trying to think what the question I put in personal values. No, I don't. I think that it's intertwined in my job and my identity because I became a police officer for those right reasons. I didn't just do it just because it was a job. I came because it identified with my beliefs and my morals to serve, be a public servant to people and help people protect and keep people safe. So that's kind of who I am, and that's why I became a police officer.
Now, you seem to have a pretty strong sense, Harry, of your values and your moral compass. Do you have, when you think about issues of citizenship and democracy, any particular role models who inspired you in that way?
My father was retired from the Air Force. He was, I guess, servicemen, they devote their life to their country. And, looking back, helped, shape like something bigger than yourself, everybody talks, want to be an entrepreneur, and that's great, but I love the idea of being part of something bigger than just you. I love that idea and being able to contribute. And one of the most meaningful things that I think somebody can say is, he did what he did, and he loved what he did, and he did it for other people. He cares about other people, and it's such a big heart. That's like that giving spirit. I care about people, and I think that is, the empathy that is within me that kind of drives me to want to do more. Like with this platform that I've created for myself, I guess. Since then, I want to do more. I want to do more. So what else can I do to make a difference? I'm not trying to project my views on anybody. I am trying to just help people, I guess, become the best versions of themselves. Don't limit yourself. So that's the way I view it. So.
Absolutely. Well, and we so appreciate that sometimes people rise to the moment that in a way that's been demanded of them, whether they might have chosen it or not. And that leads to a question that's come in from Matt Farley. He says, how has the events of January 6th impacted the larger Capitol Police Force? It appeared that different members of the force acted differently than you did. Thoughts on that? And we understand in the moment.
Yeah. No, on January 6th, I am proud to work with the men and women that I did. When you go to the police academy, you're trained on how to detect a drunk driver, how to defend yourself, how to do an investigation. We're not taught how to defend against an insurrection. You're not taught that. So a lot of the stuff, you just went into survival mode, and we figured it out as we were going. So there was no playbook. There was no training for how to react that day. Everybody just went on their instincts and defended themselves and made sure that, one, they were safe, and the people we were responsible for defending, the members of Congress, were safe. The mission statement of the Capitol Police is to defend the members of Congress so that they are able to fulfill their congressional responsibilities in a safe, open environment. As ugly as January 6th was, as ugly as it was, you know what they went and did that night? They certified the election 2, 3 in the morning, late that night, in a safe environment. It was delayed, but their mission was fulfilled. And I take a little bit of pride in that. So.
Now, I know, Harry, you've been engaged with the January 6th Commission to some extent. Obviously, that work is ongoing. Can you say a little bit about that and how you perceive what's happening and what you want to accomplish by staying in touch and involved with that effort? What do you hope to see come out of that?
One of the things shortly after the January 6th is I lobbied for the commission to find out what happened. And I am big on, if somebody's wrong, they're wrong, period. It's no no matter what party, it's no matter what person. If you're wrong, you're wrong, and that's it. So I believe that getting the facts about what really happened that day was very important to me. Um, One, because I believe somebody needs to be held accountable. Two, because you want to make sure that that never happens again. And how can you understand and move on and make sure something like that never happens again if you don't even know exactly what happened? So I think it's very important. So you learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them, or whatever the saying is, or something like that. You're bound to repeat the mistakes if you don't learn from them. We don't even know what our mistakes were. So I think it's important to investigate it. So for somebody to be against that, somebody not want the truth to come out, think deeply. Why do you not want it to come out? And also, I was a victim that day. Not me, not just me. My coworkers, we were beaten, we were sprayed, we were viciously attacked, punched. We were victims, so I want justice too. Selfishly, I want it, and those people got to pay. But that's just the me talking, not the bigger than me self. You know, like I said earlier about things bigger than me. No, this is just me individually. Y'all got to pay. If you hit me, you got to pay. I need you held responsible and accountable. So that's another reason why I'm fighting for the justice about this. And, you know, I told Congress, you know, I meet with the January 6th committee. I see them daily. And I tell them, we did our job. And now everybody has a job to do. Everybody does. Our job was to protect you all so you can do the rules and what you were elected to do. Now do that. You know, you're responsible. Now we did our job. Now y'all do yours. And why I'm staying vested in it is to remind them, you know, not in a disrespectful way. Hey, I'm still waiting. I'm still here and I'm not going away. This needs to be taken care of. So that's why I'm still vested in the way that I am. So,
and are you optimistic that we will get at the truth? I mean, what's your sense of that, since you're pretty close to it?
You know, it call me crazy, but or optimistic. Yeah, I am. I do believe that we will. I don't necessarily have any specific reason that gives me hope that they will, but besides, they are vested in it also. They were victims that day also. They were coming to overthrow them. And so they were victims. So I would imagine that they want to, the people that potentially were there to get them, I would imagine that they want those people held accountable too. So that I am optimistic about it. So.
Well, that's good to hear. And I know you have an optimistic spirit that certainly comes forth in all that you've shared. We have another question that's come in that says, once the seriousness of the situation was apparent, how were you able to communicate with other law enforcement groups? You know, we heard there were other law enforcement groups. I don't know if they were already there or in some cases called in, but it had to be somewhat chaotic, I would think also. But what was that like as you were trying to communicate
while it was going on, you know, we, you know, it's easy. Like, I know so much more now than what I did on January 6th while it was occurring. You know, the delay in the National Guard and other officers getting there and all this delay. All we had was each other. And I wasn't aware that there was a delay in the National Guard. I wasn't aware. Right. The scene was as chaotic as you can imagine. The radio communication, it was non-existent. One, because it was so loud, and two, you got a million people trying to talk at the same time, and everybody's just like, you know what, we're going to figure this out on our own. So individually, what I did that day, we had, it was a group of like 6 of us, and we said, we're going to team up in pairs of 2, and we're just going to go stick together. So it was 2-man teams running around, trying to put out fires, so to speak, wherever assistance was needed. Sure, I wondered, where's the help? Where's everybody else? But like I said, there's no training on how to deal with an insurrection, or at least none that I'm familiar with. So when people
Right.
got there, it was we use the term find work, find something to do, and there was a lot for people to do, and eventually it became coordinated once everybody you saw the efforts of individuals. Like it wasn't just some hey let's huddle up and devise a plan. No, people just saw two or three people working to clear out one area and everybody else just joined in. I remember at one time I was standing there face to face with about 40 individuals and I'm by myself. And then
Oh, wow.
I was just thinking to myself, when is this going to end? How is this going to end? Are we just going to be out here all night with these people face to face fighting these people? And then I looked out the corner of my eye and I saw some individuals in all black police riot gear. They weren't they weren't Capitol Police. I didn't know who I still to this day don't know who they were, but I know they were good guys. And I was like, all right, there's some here we go. So more and more people just started showing up. That's the thing, we didn't do anything different. That's how we didn't take the Capitol back because we devised some plan. We took the Capitol back because we got help. We had more officers and we were able to overpower them and we ended up winning. So
Did you fear for your life on that day, Harry?
yeah, but I didn't know. So I've been asked the question, why weren't more people shot and, you use deadly force and everything. And deadly force is such it's not just a simple black and white answer. Like, you fear for your life, but yeah, I was scared, but I didn't know who it was going to come from. I mean, you got thousands of people surrounding you. So do you just pick one person or do you like shoot all of them? So, I mean, it was a very, very I prayed the situation, what am I going to do? I use my words a lot and just, I hope that I was able to reason with them.
Right.
I was fortunate to make it out, with just a couple bumps and bruises. I took ibuprofen and a shot of bourbon and I was all right the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely scared for my life. I did not have any idea. It was unthinkable that the Capitol would be breached. Like, unthinkable thing that happened. And
Right.
yeah, I thought the absolute worst that I'm not going to make it home. But I didn't know how it was going to end. I didn't know if it was going to end by me being killed or something else, though. Yes, I was fearful. I was scared.
Yeah, well, it's a reminder too about how we all have to make decisions in the moment. And looking back on it, there's all this information that's come out, but you didn't necessarily know all of that information at the time. You were living in the moment. So I want to switch gears a little bit, Harry, and ask you a question. Since this is Campus Compact, we work with college students around the country, right, in this organization. So when you think about your advice to college students today who want to be engaged citizens, that want to make a difference in their society, but they're not sure how, what would you advise students and what would you like them to know?
So there are multiple things that I believe that you should do and be aware of as not just a concerned student, but a concerned American, a concerned constituent. Learn how the government works. Learn how it works. Learn what the roles of the congressmen are. Learn your local elections first, because a lot of stuff starts locally. And also, first thing is you got to have an open mind, because this stuff will eat you alive. It will make you so angry, and if something doesn't go your way. But you have to realize that things aren't going to always go your way. And you know what you do? You know what you don't do when it doesn't go your way? You don't storm the Capitol and attack people to try to get things your way. That's not how it goes. You need to rethink your strategy. Why did we not win this election? And you need to be an engaged citizen and pay attention to what your congressman is telling you, what your senators are telling you, and make informed decisions. Surround yourself with people who have like-minded views. Try to form, what do we need to do? How can we engage more people to persuade them to vote for this candidate or give this candidate a try? Or run yourself. But you gotta be able to be open-minded and be driven and determined, because like I said, this will eat you up. it's very frustrating when you see things that you are so passionate about, a bill that does not pass. Call your congressman. Why did you vote this way? Why did you vote? You need to be engaged and have answers and find out your own answers, and don't necessarily depend on the media to give you your answers. Do some research on your own. Call the congressman, call your senator, call the office. They work for you and you have access to them. And I encourage people to hold them accountable and not just pout about it. Hold them. You know, the best way to hold them accountable is at the ballot box. That's how you hold them accountable. And if you don't turn out, then their staunchest supporters will continue to have them in office over and over again, instead of rallying against them for them to change. If you got a person that's been in 15, 20 terms of Congress, they keep getting reelected and they think they're doing a good job because, hey, I've been here 15 years. If somebody got an approval rating of like 30%, how are they in Congress for 15 years? They think they're doing a great job. Right. You have to stay engaged, stay active. You have to stay informed. So.
Well, I think, I think the message from today, Harry, is looking at your situation. You've shown us the power of an individual, right? You were part of a team. It was an event bigger than yourself, but your voice speaking out after January 6th and making sure that people don't forget what happened, right? And they think about the implications of what happened. I think you've also demonstrated the power that an individual, the difference they can make, right? You've found your voice, you've used it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I found his voice. Like I'll be out at a restaurant. I'll be out at a restaurant eating, and people come up to me and say, "Hey, you're the guy from," yeah, that's me. And people just would think. Before all of this, I was on Twitter and I had maybe 200 followers. Right. Today, I have like 87,000 in like less than a year because I have this voice, and it's like, what in the world? Like, people care about what I have to say, so that's given me even more the drive to want to do more, because people obviously care, but you have to meet people where they're at and continue to engage them and encourage them to want better and do better and give them the means that this is how you do it.
Yeah. Now, is the Capitol, I know we've been through a lot with the pandemic, and that certainly affected your job too. Did I read recently, am I remembering right, that the Capitol is now reopening for visitors? And
yes, they did it in different phases. So I know people may want to come up and visit. So right now they're doing call in advance tours. So they're open to anybody, but they're limited. You call your congressman, call your senator, and you arrange a tour, a guided staff-led tour. And I think that's going to continue up until Memorial Day, up until Memorial Day. And then I think Memorial Day, they're slated for a full opening to just anybody. But as of now, okay, you have to schedule it in advance with your congressman and senator's office. And that would be a great way for you to get engaged too. Members that are watching, call them, get a tour, and have them show you, hey, what happened ask them, what do you think about January 6th? I think that'll tell you a lot about what they, I don't know. I don't like using this term because I would like to be literal about it, but keep your foot on their neck. Pressure. You got to keep it up, because, like I said, they're going to keep on doing what they want to do until you see how you wonder how, like, a congressman or a senator, like, wait, this person used to be such a good person. What happened to him? Or this person used to be bad, but I actually like them now. Public opinion. That's what happened. People got into it. You hit them where it hurts, and that's the election booth. Power means a lot to people, and if they fear or lose it, they'll do what you want to do for power, to stay in power. But no, how does it make me feel? How does it make me feel? Sure, the Capitol. You can't live in fear. Yeah, the Capitol is the people's houses. Oh, you got to find a way to open it. Everybody does not want to overthrow the government. People like to view the Capitol. Like, you have to be able to get it open, and I encourage it being opened, but I think we need to do it in a safe way. But it needs to be open because it's the people's house, and people need access to their congressmen and women and their senators. And they deserve it. It's, the taxpayers pay it, and they need to. So we need to have it open. So I'm glad that it's opening. But like I said, bigger than me. I can't be. Oh gosh, I hope these people today don't attack. I can't. That's not.
Right.
You can't live like that.
Right. Well, and I think it's so important symbolically to have that reopening, right? Because it is, when you think about the nature of the American democratic experiment, that idea that it's the people, as you said, the people's house. This is not, government by just a few people. It's of all of us, right? And we have a comment here that came in from Elaine Aikita that says, "Thank you, Mr. Dunn, and feeling so grateful to have you in public service defending our democracy." And that sort of sums up apparently the sentiment that's been captured in a lot of the comments so far. Along those lines,
Thank you.
Think about reflecting on yes, and it very well deserved. Are you optimistic about the future of democracy? We hear a lot, a lot of commentators talking about democracy is not as healthy as we might have expected it would be in 2022, and we can't take it for granted. But how are you feeling about it? You're right there on the front lines, literally.
Yeah. I hadn't heard the phrase, so much, democracy is fragile, until
Right.
obviously January. But if you think about it, it makes sense. And if we lose it, we only have ourselves to blame. But I don't want to lose it. And, democracy isn't about, like I said, getting your candidate in office every single time. That's not how it works. Seeing things on the Hill now, everything is so divided. Nothing passes in Congress. Like the Senate has 100 members, and it's always like a 51-49 vote. Like that's not how things should pass. Right. That's not how, that's just like a majority rule kind of thing. We need to. It gets a little frustrating sometimes. We see one of the things, because we've got so nasty to each other, like Republicans can't even talk to Democrats. Democrats can't talk to Republicans because they're so busy defending themselves from personal attacks in the first place. Like Republicans are rhinos and libertards and communists and all these different comments. And I don't want to have a discussion with anybody about any kind of policy while you're insulting me. Like we're not going to get anywhere. So I think it's important to have these conversations. Like, for example, voting rights was a hot topic. And, some of the members that I say, you voted against voting rights? Do you not believe that people should vote? No, I don't think that. Okay, great. So you think that people should vote. So what is it that you disagree with that made you vote no? And then you find out where you all can meet in the middle. If they say no, I believe everybody shouldn't vote, then okay, then that's a fundamental disagreement right here. But if you're talking about some logistics, like somebody says, all right, I want 30 days of early voting. Well, I think that's too much. Okay, can I meet you in the middle at 15? Okay, boom, we got a deal. So you can't even work things out now because everybody's so nasty and angry to each other. Like, that's not how things work. You don't always get your way. It's, that's why it's so important to have an open mind about, why does this matter to you? Why is it a big deal that we can't have 30 days? Because I believe the X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, you know what? I never thought about that. All right, so yeah, what about 15? Well, I would prefer 0. Well, we're not going to do 0 because I'm not getting 30, you're not getting 0. Let's do 15. Okay, deal. And that would be beautiful, but that never happens, right? Wishful thinking.
Right. But that idea of compromise, though, it is interesting that, of course, I read a lot written by James Madison, who, of course, for whom our university is named. And Madison talked a lot about the importance of compromise, right? And bringing people together and finding ways to work out differences between factions. He said that's what you had to do to make democracy work. And sometimes it feels like we've forgotten how to exercise that muscle, if you will. I hope you have a chance to talk to some of the folks when they're lining up to visit the Capitol, because obviously you've got a pretty good perspective on this.
Well, I am. Like I said, when I did speak about wanting to do more, I am writing a book, so I hopefully will be able to put that there. And I also want to do public speaking. I have, been in contact with a couple of different speakers bureaus. So I'm trying to use my voice for good. Whoever want to listen to me, I'll talk to anybody. It was at one point during the January 6th, when I was testifying, that I was attacked personally on Fox News by Tucker Carlson. And I reached out, and said, let's talk. Have me on your show. We can have a conversation. And that fell upon deaf ears multiple times. But I'll talk to anybody. We don't have to agree, but we can have a conversation. I'm not going to attack any. If you attack me, trust me, I'm going to attack you back. But if we just have a regular conversation, let's talk. So I'd be willing to.
Well, we so appreciate it here. I think we're just about out of time in a moment here. But any last words for the audience that you'd like to leave them with?
No, I stay encouraged. It's very difficult out here. It's very difficult. The world is a very cruel and ugly place. But stay encouraged. Don't be defeated because you see negative people around you. Don't be defeated. I won't say it's going to be okay, but I will say stand up for what you believe in. Hold firm in that. And, at the end of my life, I don't know, if there are people of different religious faiths or non-religious at all. That's fine. I'm a Christian. I do believe that at the end of my life, I'm going to be judged. Even if not by a God, I'm going to be judged by this world. And people are going to say, hey, this guy stood up for what he believed in and he did what he thought was right. And you know what? That's all that matters at the end of my life. I'll leave you with one thing. It was kind of like I struggled with I was getting attacked left and right. I got death threats. I got hate mail for speaking out, But I said, of all things, I heard a Whitney Houston song. It was called The Greatest Love of All. And the lyrics were, I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. So believe in yourself, stand up for what you believe in, even if nobody else does. And continue to put yourself first and believe in yourself. There's power there. So also, like a little plug, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I answer questions, I answer DMs. It's at Libra Dunn, LIBRADUNN on Twitter. So give me a shout if you want to talk even more questions. I'd be happy to follow up with you. But thank you all for your time. Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation, and I feel like I could just keep going and on and on. So thanks for having me here.
Well, what an honor, Harry. And, I have to say, I've heard that Whitney Houston song a million times, but you really made me think about those lyrics in a different way, which I really appreciate. What a great note to end on. So thank you so much. Thank you for your service, your dedication, and I would add your bravery. You certainly make us all proud, and you've shown, I think, what true patriotism looks like. And this is what we all need to reflect upon. And we're especially thankful that you were willing to share your story in such an authentic way. So thank you for the work that you continue to do. And please thank your counterparts in the Capitol Police as well. We are really grateful for your service each and every day. It's been great to be with you. So since we're virtual, we'll give you a virtual ovation now, but it's been great to be with you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
So now I want to share just a few brief remarks as we close this terrific virtual gathering. And I want to thank all of you for joining us over the past few days to share your time, your work, your energy, to focus on the future and to think together about how we can best serve higher education, our students, and the communities of which we're a part. I know that all of us face daunting challenges in doing this work at a time when our country and our planet are recovering from this global pandemic, and in which it seems like people are more divided than ever, as we just discussed. But now is precisely the time when our nation and our world need us the most and need this work the most. They need our optimism, our energy, our creativity, our persistence, our resilience, and our can-do spirit. And I think Harry really exemplified that spirit today. So I want to say, on behalf of all of us, the Board of Campus Compact is really excited about the possibilities for higher education engagement and the potential of this coalition to make a real impact at this important moment in our history together. We are a newly reinvigorated organization, and we're ready for this next chapter in our collective efforts. There's a lot that we can do together. And as everybody knows, this conference came together with a lot of hard work behind the scenes. So I especially want to thank the Campus Compact team and their planning partners for everything that they've done to make this virtual gathering possible. We hope that you all have enjoyed the conference, and we hope that these 3 days have been full of learning, connection, and inspiration for all of you. It's certainly been wonderful to be in community together. And finally, and very importantly, we value your feedback. We hope that you'll share your thoughts about the conference with us and help inform future programming by completing the survey. So please take that time to complete the survey. Give us your feedback now and as we go forward into the future. So best wishes to all of you as you continue to do this really important work. And thank you so much for joining us. That concludes our virtual conference. Great to be with you.